All right, great. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this Thursday evening. We're a Power BI user group, DC area. So who are we? We are a group of data enthusiasts. So we're volunteer run, led by Shannon, Rocio, Jiang, and I. So our goal here is to get everyone together to learn and share best practices around Power BI, but also just analytics in general, right? Anything that help us to make our business more efficient, to help us to do analysis better. So we're also a part of the global Power Platform user group. There are actually some exciting changes that are coming to the user group, So I just want to have Shannon to take a minute to tell us about that.
Thanks, Z. Okay, so I am going to try to do this justice. Everything still seems to be in the beginning phases right now, but we just wanted to let people know that in the past, all of these user groups were managed by a company called Dynamic Communities, and that is phasing out. And the user groups are now going to be managed by Microsoft, which I think is cool and is going to be a cool opportunity for all of us. So there is a link that I will drop into the chat. If you all want to be notified of things that are coming down the line with these new user groups, Microsoft has created a form that you can sign up, and it just asks you, are you a user group leader? Are you a member? What are you interested in? And this link is specific to the Power Platform. If you are interested in the Azure or the SQL user groups, Microsoft, I believe, is managing those as well, but I don't have a link for those yet. But we just wanted to let everybody know that things are changing a bit, and we're really excited about it. So you shouldn't see anything change from your perspective in the near term, but we're hoping that by the end of the year, we'll see some changes that will be favorable to all of us.
All right. Thank you, Shannon. Okay, so this is just a quick overview of Power Platform. I think pretty much everyone here are familiar with one of the components of Power Platform. So that's Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agent, and each component itself is very powerful, but I think you will maximize the overall platform capabilities if you use kind of a mixed match of all the different components here. So for each of the meeting, we like to share job opportunities. So we want to see if anyone on the call who are either looking for jobs or have jobs they want to share. So take a quick pause to see if anyone has anything they want to share related to job opportunities.
I'll just say AAS is always looking for good people in the Power Platform. If anybody wants to know about working at my company, just reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free.
Thanks, Jimmy. So currently we have 4 opportunities that we're looking, I guess, folks on in the community are looking for. So we have one for Power BI consultant, and also a full-time Power BI developer. There's another one for BI engineers. So we'll share the deck after the call. So feel free just to reach out to the folks listed here if interested in those opportunities. So here are some upcoming events. So recently, I think after the Ignite, Microsoft have posted the Cloud Skill Challenge. So if you go to this website listed here, you'll see the different challenges that they have listed there. So when you get this after completing the challenge, you'll get a free certificate, free voucher to take the certification exam, which is pretty cool. So without further ado, for tonight's presentation, we have Luc, CEO of Capista. So Luc will walk us through how to drive digital transformation with Microsoft Power Platform. He will talk about how to create applications, automate business process, and monitor business performance using a combination of Power Platform tools. So Luc, I'll turn the screen share to you.
Yep. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Awesome. All right, so for those of you who I've never met, as I was saying earlier, I really miss your city. DC is one of my favorite cities in the United States, so hopefully I get to go back soon. Yeah, my name is Luc Labelle. I am the CEO and founder of Cabessa. Cabessa is a consulting firm based here in Montreal. We mostly do consulting services and training services on the Microsoft 365 platform. So we do everything on the Office 365, so SharePoint, Teams, and lots of Power Platforms lately. I'm also a business applications MVP, which means that I try to do as many of these conferences as possible throughout the year. When we can travel, I try to travel as much as possible around the world. I've been in quite a few places in the past few years doing that kind of stuff, and I really enjoy it. I'm also running the Montreal Business Applications User Group. We usually meet at Microsoft once a month. We eat pizza and we talk about Power Platform. Now we still have an event. We do it virtually, just like you guys. So for those of you who want to meet or want to join our user group, you're more than welcome to do that. We usually run that on third Tuesday of every month. But we don't cover just the Power BI thing. So I'm not sure if this fits in your requirements in terms of content. But anyways, everybody's welcome to come. I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer, which means that I try to give as many training as possible throughout the year. Yeah, that's pretty much it about me. So today's session objectives, I have 0 slides. So these are my 2 slides. Everything we'll do is mostly demos, and it's based on an actual use case that at a client. I've simplified it so that we can squeeze most of it in an hour-ish type of time frame. But basically, the use case was they wanted it was a consulting company, and they had to send these contracts to the clients. But the problem they were facing is that the contract were sent to the clients by the sales representative without going through I'm sorry. I was just looking at what's coming up on the chat, and I saw my name. I said, "Whoa!" Yeah, so it was going through. It wasn't going through an adequate approval process. So what was actually happening is that the sales representative would send the contract to the clients with the adequate pricing in there. So they would say, "Okay, here's your contract. We'll do this for $5." And then the company would actually have to deliver this contract or this project for $5, even though it didn't make any sense at all. So that pricing had to go through some kind of approval. So they tried to do that with email. So the person who was approving this would receive, I don't want to say hundreds of emails, but close to hundreds of emails a week from different sales representatives from different cities around the world, where they would say, "Here's my client, this is the project, and also this is the price, this is the starting date, this is the type of project. It's a non-standard contract, so here's the justification for that." And then that person would try to process through email. So she did that for a while, but it wasn't really working very well. So she, we had a call to see if we could actually fix that, and we proposed a simple solution relying on SharePoint, Power Apps, Power Automate, and also Power BI. So today's objectives are really to show you how we built this solution. As I was saying, I've simplified this for the purpose of of today's meeting. But basically, it's to show you how we can use SharePoint to store the data and use Power Automate to digitize the approval processes. Then use Power App to digitize the forms, and also use Power BI to monitor the data that people put into the form. So these are the 2 slides that I add. I will demo for the rest of the time that we have together. If you do have questions, please just jump in, and we're just gonna take them as they come in, so you don't have to wait after I'm done with the demos. Just ask the questions as I'm showing stuff. So basically, as I was saying, what we did for this client was we built a SharePoint list, a simple list. In this case, I have a project name, a client name, a country for that client, a state, a street address, or a postal code, a contact name, a contact email, a contact phone, a project A project amount, a project start date, a contract type, also a justification, a status, and a representative name. So it was a simple SharePoint list, and what we did for them is we've enhanced this, the way they would input the data in the SharePoint list using Power Apps. So this is a custom SharePoint form using Power Apps application. So I have this multi-tab looking type of form where I could say, this is my project, I don't know, 15. And then the amount for that will be $20. I'll have a project start date that starts, I don't know, at the end of this month. The contract type for that will be a non-standard contract, and I will provide a justification for that because it was cool. And then a representative name, I will assign that to myself. So this is pulling from Azure Active Directory if you want to, through the Office 365 users layer if you want. Then a project type would be either a SharePoint, Power Apps, Power Platform, Power BI, or AI and machine learning. In this case, I'll choose that type of project. And then I'll say, this is my client, 25. That person lives in the USA, and also the province will be DC, of course. Well, state for you guys, and then not sure what the zip codes look like in DC, and I'll say this is on a street, and the contact name for that will be John, and his email will be john@client25.com, and his phone number, please don't call there, it might be someone's phone number. I'm just going to go ahead and save that. So again, this form has been customized using Power Apps, and when I save this will add.
Luke, sorry to interrupt. Can I jump in for just 1 second?
Yes, of course.
I think we are having a tiny bit of network issues with the audio. So we may jump in and ask you to repeat things if we didn't catch them, if that's okay.
Yes, of course. Can you, so you're saying that you can't hear me adequately?
Yeah, there's a little bit of cutting out. Would you mind maybe trying to turn off your camera?
Yes, of course.
Okay, that might help. It might not, but it's worth a shot. Live troubleshooting.
Yeah, all right, so can you hear me better now? Should I put a headset on?
No, that seems much better. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds better.
Sounds good. If you need me to put a headset on, no problem at all. Just tell me, okay?
Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem at all. All right, so as I was saying, I've added this new project to my SharePoint list. And for some reason, I can't see what I just added. Let me just move and then come back. This is crazy. I can't seem to be able to scroll down. So anyways, yeah, there you go. It's right here, client 25. I'm sorry, I was looking for project 25. So what I just added is right here, client 25. So I had this project, and the next thing I want to do is get an approval for that. So that request as a state new request. And then the next thing I want to do is go get an approval for that. So I've set up should show right here. There you go. I've set up a flow. It's called pricing approval DC. And what this will do is it will allow me to drive that status throughout the approval. So the way this goes is that if the request is made for the USA, it'll go to the VP sales for the USA for an approval. If it's a Canadian request, it'll go to the VP sales Canada for approval, and then it'll go for to legal for contract creation. And once the contract is created, they would approve that as well. So if I run this flow and I come back here to my action items in my approvals, I should have an approval sitting here for me that says, please review the following request. If I go back to my SharePoint list, I should now this sent to, actually the message is not adequate, but sent to VP USA in this case, and then I could review that request. Says, hi, please validate the following request for Luc Labelle because I created this request. The project name is 15, the client is 25, the amount is $20, and I'm just going to go ahead and approve that. When I do this, this will go to the second layer of approval, which is legal. So if I go back to my SharePoint list and I refresh that, I should have an updated status that says sent to legal for approval. And if I refresh my approvals page, I should have another approval pending there. And again, I could go ahead and approve that. Once I'm done, this means the contract was created. It's been approved by the sales, VP sales. It's been created by and so my contract was created. And so I will also send an email to the person who actually received, that created the request that says, I, Luc Labelle, your request was approved by legal. And so this entire process would be monitored through here. And then we also built for them a Power BI, I'm sorry about that, a Power BI report that would allow them to actually see this with numbers. So these numbers I'm pulling from that same SharePoint list where I can see my project amount by clients and also by statuses and also by time, and with a time perspective if I want. So what we'll do is I'll show you how to build this entire solution from end to end. So I'll try to make this fast because we're already at 6:53 and I know it's late for you guys, so I don't want to insist too much. So if we go back to the SharePoint site, what I did is I created a demo DC pricing approval list, right? So this list is exactly the same list we have been working with. And if I click the new button, you see that this is just a clean, simple SharePoint list, a SharePoint form. So I'm just going to say this is my project one. My client will be client one from USA. And DC again, 123 on a street. And zip code will be something funny. Contact name will be Steve. Steve at client1.com. His phone number will be 514. Again, don't call there. Project type will be a SharePoint project type, and then the project amount will be $20,000. The start date for that project will be, again, March 31st. It's a standard contract. The status for that, see, this is one of the problems that we are facing with this solution, because the person could actually overwrite the status and say, yeah, contract created, and then just create the contract, send that to the client. So we want to fix this. The other thing is that I don't want any attachments attached to that. So I need to fix these requirements if you want, because I deliver it just like that. So I will also add myself as a rep here. And so this is just a basic SharePoint list, a few columns there. And the next thing we want to do is drive that status here. So we want to do that using the Power Automate, using the Power Automate flow. So on my flows, and a new flow that I will start as an instant flow. So I will drive the triggering of that manually myself. So this won't start like on an action. It won't start over time. I'm going to tell it to start. And I'm just going to say demo PC pricing approval request. And I will select for the trigger for a selected item in the SharePoint. So for a specific selected item in the SharePoint list, trigger and then move forward. So I will select that trigger and then create. So I will go grab that URL right here because we're going to cheat a little bit to make it faster. I will select enter a custom value and I will put the custom value for my SharePoint site. And I will tell it to go grab this from the demo DC pricing approval request list, which is that list right here, demo, DC, pressing approval request. Then when you use this trigger action, there's something weird that you need to do, which is get the item that is already been selected. So because I want the rest of the metadata for that specific item, I will go get the item by the ID. And I will, oh, sorry about that. Go get the same list. And then I will push the ID for a selected item in that get item action. So this will allow me to go grab the entire, I see, do I see a question, a raised hand? Yeah, Julie
Yes.
seems to have.
Yes,
Go ahead, Julie.
I would like to know how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, of course. So to do that, basically, if you come back here to your portal, office.com, you can go in this app right here. It's called Power Automate. It might not show for you on that left bar, but to go there, you can always click that all app. And right here at the top somewhere, you should be able to find that the Power Automate logo. And then if you click on there, this will take you to this application. It's called Power Automate. And then from the Power Automate, I created the flow.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Right, so I'm going to get all the metadata for that specific item that was selected. So once I have that, I want to validate if the content is, the request is coming from the US or if it's coming from Canada. So what I'm going to do is add some control on top of that. So I'll say, use a switch control on the location. Oops, sorry about that. Country. Yeah, there we go. See here, there's from the get item, that's right here. I can pull the country value or the country, because country is a drop down field from a SharePoint perspective. In this case, what we want is the country value, what was selected in that drop down. So if the country value is equal to USA, proceed as such. If it's Canada, and proceed as such. And if it's not, well, you manage this exception. So the flow is triggered on an item that has rogue data, so don't process that, just alert me. So I would add an update item. So if it's USA, the first thing I want to do is update that status to send to VP Sales USA, right? So I'm going to update that item. So I will update a SharePoint item. Come on, again. I'll keep pushing. This is a very annoying aspect of Power Apps, if you ask me. But Power Automate when you use SharePoint lists, you constantly re-enter this content. I will grab the ID from the get item, and I will grab the project name. So this is the item that I want to update, because ID and project name are required fields. I can't leave them empty. Even from a flow perspective, this will tell me, no, this is required. You have to put something here. You can't leave it empty, so I won't allow you to save. So in this case, this will not be a new request. This will be sent to VP Sales USA. And I'm just going to close that. Once it's been updated, I want to send an approval. So I'll create an approval. Oh, sorry about that. And I will start it and wait for an approval. And in here, I will select, in this case, the first one to respond is fine by me. So I will say, please validate the following request. I will assign that to myself so that it doesn't go everywhere. And in the details, I would say, hi, VP Sales USA, please proceed with the following request. And I would say client name, project name, project type, and also project it's missing. There you go. So my client name, I will go grab it from that get item that comes right here. So the item from that SharePoint list that was entered, go get me the client name of that specific item. And then project name for that get action. Then we want the project type from that get item. And then we want the project amount. That should be right here for that get item. I will, oh, sorry about that. I want to be able to click on a link that would allow them to click on a link that will take them to the detail of the item. So in this case, there's a column in SharePoint called link to item, and I'll say view details. This will be the label for that link. I'll start an approval. And I want to validate if this approval was approved, if the request was approved or rejected. So I will again add some control on top of this and say I will add a condition. And if my outcome of that approval is not equal to approve, proceed as such. Otherwise, just keep doing what you're doing. So the next thing I will do is if it's not approved, it was rejected. So the first thing I want to do is update that item and say this item was rejected. So yeah. Again, I will go get from that same SharePoint list. Sorry about that. Using the same ID and using the same project name. And I will say this is not a new request, it is now rejected. I will also send an email to the requester saying, sorry, this was rejected. So this is not what I want, sorry about that. Send email. So I will send an email to the person who created that request. So if I look at this dynamic content, I should have a contact. No, it's not what I want. There you go, email. So I want that created by email. So the person who created that request, email, and I will say request rejected. I'll say hi. So that created. Created, just give me a sec. No, it's not one. Created by display name. So the person who created that, hi, Luc Labelle, your request was rejected. And I could actually fill out this form and build this email with all the content that I want. But just to simplify things, I'm just going to leave it like that. And then I'm going to terminate this. This flow. It's not failing, it's just a canceled flow. So if it's not approved, well, update this as rejected, send an email and then terminate the flow. If it's not, if the flow is not killed, it's going to keep forward. So this means that somewhere here at the bottom, sorry about that, maybe a little too aggressive. There you go. So I would implement the same logic in Canada and or any other cases that I need to manage. But once I go through this first step, if I haven't killed my flow, this obviously has been sent to legal for approval. So I will update that. Sorry about that item again. So I will update the same SharePoint list. I'm going through this very, very fast, but technically I would rename all of this adequately and, you know, make it proper. It's just, I'm going very, very fast so that we can cover as much as possible. And I would also say name, maybe the fastest way to get that. Yeah. Maybe not. It's faster. And then this has been sent to legal for contract creation. Well, in this case, sent to legal for approval. And then again, I would implement an approval. Start and wait for an approval. The first one to respond is fine by me. And I would say, please review the following request. And I would say assign this to me again, because I want this to go everywhere. And then I would say, hi, legal, please. And let me cheat a little bit here. Let me go grab that right here. Sounds good. Please validate this. So I'm going to try to cheat a little more. So I will try to grab this entire condition and copy that and paste it late at the bottom of this. This might or might not work. Well, in this case, it worked very, very well. So if the outcome from that approval, though, I need to redo. So outcome from the start and wait for an approval too. So if the outcome of this approval is not approved, update the item. It's the same item. It's rejected. I send an email to that same person, and this is terminated. If I can go through all of this, it means that I should be able to copy that now. If I've been through all of this, it means that my contract was created. And I should also be able to cheat a little more and copy that and use this and then paste that and send an email to the requester saying request approved. All right, so let's see if I didn't mess this up. Technically, it should be somehow reasonable. All right, so I have no errors in my flow. So if I did that well, when I go back to my SharePoint list here and I select this item, by clicking that Power Automate menu, I should now have in my dropdown that demo DCR pricing approval request. So this is pulling this flow because I told this flow you will trigger when someone selects an item from that SharePoint list. So when I kick off this flow, so technically I have a new request here, sorry about that. When I kick off this flow, because this is a US request, it should go to send to VP Sales for approval as its status. So this should change. If I didn't break that, it should change. There you go. It's sent to VP Sales for approval. If I go to my flow and actually look at the flow history, you'll see that this flow is actually currently running. And if you look at this flow history, if you look at the executed step for that specific run, you'll see that it's actually waiting for an approval right here. So it was sent to that VP Sales USA, and it's sitting in its mailbox. And it's waiting for the person to actually approve that. So if I go to my actions item, I should have an approval from me. It says, please validate the following. And it's IVP Sales USA, please proceed with the following request with all the fields that are coming from SharePoint. See, I didn't do that well. The project type, I didn't use the value. And this is what I get for not doing it right. But there's a way to make it look adequately. So I would approve this, confirm. Then if I go back in my SharePoint, this should be sent to legal for contract creation, right? And it's sent to legal for approval in this case. And I will refresh my approvals. Sorry about that. Hold on. And then it's sent to legal. Please proceed. I will just approve this. If I were to reject that, this entire flow would actually come back to the status would be to rejected, and everything would come. I would come out of the flow, and it should now be contract created. So I've been through the entire process. No emails, no mismatch, no losing stuff, no allowing anybody to change that process themselves, that status themselves. It's being embedded and managed by a flow in Power Automate. So the next thing I want to do, we wanted, in their case, was that we wanted to change the behavior of that form. So to do that, I will leverage Power Apps. From SharePoint directly, I will customize this form.
Luke, the reason that we're so quiet is because our jaws are all just dropped with all of the things that you just accomplished in such a short amount of time. It's really amazing.
Good, that's what we want. Take, I don't know, another 20 seconds or so. Basically, what's happening here, there you go. What's happening behind the scene when this is happening is that it's configuring that control right here. So if we ever have fun, in another conference or something like that, you want to chat about this, come over and I'll explain, in more details what's actually happening behind the scene when this is happening. So what it did is actually it created a SharePoint application, a Power Apps application. And within this application, it created one screen and one form. So I have form screen 1 and SharePoint form 1. This is the form that I want to work with. It's missing a few fields. Before I add the fields that we want to work with, I'm just going to go in here and say in my settings, I will change the layout of that form. So I will put that as a landscape small, because this will be good enough for us to work with. It's going to be big enough. And then in here, there's a bunch of fields that are missing. You can see that in my form, it's missing a few fields. So I'm just going to add the fields that are missing. And I should be able to get contact phone number, and I should be able to get contract type, and also justification, and also the project amount, project start date, project type, representative name. I don't want the status, remember, I don't want my user to be able to change themselves the status. So I will, on purpose, I will not add this field as a part of my form, because I don't want them to be able to change it. And then I'm just going to add that randomly in my form without really, considering the look of the form currently. So I'm just going to make this a little bigger. This will stretch out. Then I will add here a label. Then says pricing approval request for, and I will also specify who's doing this. Oh, sorry, user. Come on. All right. This should show me the person who's doing that. I will add some padding at the left of that because, I don't like it when it's too close to the left. I will make this a bit bigger, maybe, in terms of font size. I will fill this with a background color, and I will make this a white font. Then maybe I could make this gray in terms of background. Lightish gray, yeah, there you go. Let me just make it better actually. And I will custom this and, just make it a little lighter. Yep, there you go. Allow me to make some room, and also to make some room. Let me put that there so that I have some kind of a footer there, and let me get rid of that text. Right, so if I go back to my screen, I should be able to pull this all the way down here, and then sounds good. So this form is starting to look a lot like a form that I could be happy with. So the next thing I want to implement is this is the concept of tabs. So when I click on the client button, I only want to see the fields that are relative to the client. When I click the projects, I only want to see the fields that are relative to the project. So I will implement this using 2 buttons. I will insert a button right here. I'm just gonna make this, a reasonable size button. Maybe a little too big here. I think we have more room a little bit. Yep. Yep. And this, I will say it's my project information. Maybe a little aggressive on the side. And this will be my client information. Now, my client and project should have, an active and an inactive button look and feel. So I will change this background to something that's a little more, that's a little lighter. Maybe this. Yep, this works. So when it's active, I want it to show like this. When it's inactive, I want it to show like that. So I will just grab this color right here, and I will say the fill color for that. Come on. Will be, actually, let me just set something else. To drive the color of these buttons, I will use something that we call variables. So when I click on this button, I will set the variable for project to true and the one for client to false and vice versa. And I will use these 2 variables to define if I show my fields or hide my fields and if my buttons are active or inactive. So on click of this, I want to say set, I'm cheating here a little bit because I'm using a global variable because it's faster, but in production I would use a different strategy for that. But this would be global GLB project, sorry for that, project, and I will set this variable to true. When I click on this, I want this variable to be true. Also, I want you to do the exact same thing for another variable that's be called GLB. Oops, sorry about that. Client. Oh, client. But I want you to do the exact opposite. So client would be false. And I'm just going to implement this the same way in my button. Let me show field. Yep, no, it's on select is what I want. There you go. But the exact opposite, right? So when I click on this, my project will be false and my client will be true. Also, I'm going to cheat a little bit here again, and that specific value is what I want when my form is loaded. So when this loads, on visible of that, make this as well. So when it loads, it'll be on the project tab by default. Is what I'm saying. This is the behavior I'm asking the form to have. So I will grab this color as I was saying earlier. So the fill color, I'm just going to copy that. So that is the light color. You can see it in that little square right here. I will drive the color of that button based on these variables. So if it's selected, dark blue, if it's non-selected, light blue. So the fill property of that will be equal to GLB project. So if GLB project is equal to true, then you should be dark, otherwise you should be light. And I will do the exact same thing for my client button, but the opposite. So if GLB client is true, then you should be dark, otherwise you should be light. So this is not showing currently because I haven't initiated. I haven't clicked on anything yet. There you go. So it's starting to look like this tab. Multi-tab form that I want. So the next thing I want to do is hide and show these controls based on what's been selected. So the visible property of all these data cards can be I'll drive them through these variables as well. So if I go to project name, this belongs to project. So I will impact the visible property of that with my project. If project is equal to true, while that value will be equal to true. So it means that the visible value will be equal to true. So when I click on the buttons, it'll switch these on and off and show the controls the way they should. So client belongs to client. And I'm just going to say GNB underscore client. And as soon as I actually clicked on that, you see that the data card actually disappeared. And I will do this for all my controls. So country belongs to client. State or province belongs to client. So just bear with me for a minute here. Street address, oops, sorry about that. Street address belongs to the client. Come on. Zip or postal code belongs to the client as well. Contact name is client related. Contact email is also client related. Contact phone number, I think, is the last client field. And then we start showing contract type, which is related to project. So let me just go get my project variable here. Contract type is, oh, sorry about that. Contract type is also related. Oh, I already done that. Sorry about that. Justification. Project amount. I'm almost done. Project start date. Come on. Project type. And also representative name. All right, so the boring part is over. Let's see if this works. Yep, this works. I see my client stuff. I see my project stuff. Now I want to rearrange this form a little bit so that it looks a little bit better. So if I click on that form, there's a property here called snap to columns. And this is telling this form one control per line, and it's going to be snapped to that, that grid, which has only one column. And I'm going to change that because, I want a little bit of flexibility. Keep in mind that because I'm working with a form, I do lack a lot of flexibility. But let's see what we can do. Let me go back to that. All right, so my project name, I'll make it a little smaller. My contract type, my contract type will remain here actually. I might take this here. And then justification, project start date, maybe right here. And then project type. Actually, this could go right here. Project type, contract type, and also representative name. Yep, this should all work. Takes a bit of tweaking because these controls are, weird. And can just make this a multi-line control. I'll make this a little bigger actually. This I'll remain like that. Maybe this a little bigger. This a little bigger. And yep, I'll keep this form just like this. So my project form is built. I'll do the exact same thing for my client name. And then the country for that client. And then, the state or province for that client. Then the street address will also be a sorry about that. Multi-line control. Zip or postal code could come, let me put that here. Actually, this should go there. Yep. Contact email address, contact phone number. Make this bigger. All right. And also put that here as well. Bigger. Sounds good. Client name. Country. State. Signal postal code. Maybe this a little bigger as well. All right. That's not super duper, but you know, I think it's starting to look like a form. So client content, project content. I'm going to save this. And publish that back to SharePoint. So what I'm saying here, what I'm telling SharePoint to do is stop using your, I will give you a new form to work with. This is a new form that you need to work with. And so if I did that adequately, I'll refresh the page. When I click the new button, what's going to come out of that right hand side here is not the SharePoint form, but the Power Apps that I just built. It sometimes takes a, there you go. I think it's coming up. There you go. So this is what we just built together. And I have a project name is going to be project 2. See, this is a bit messed up, but I could go easily and change that. This is SharePoint and it will be assigned to me. It's a non-standard contract for this reason. And the client name will be client 2. Lives in Canada, in Montreal or Quebec. And then something funny here on the street again. Contact name will be JJ at client2.com, and then 514. Sounds good. If I save this, it should save back to SharePoint. SharePoint does not even know I'm not using its form. So I've created the SharePoint list to hold the content. I've implemented this approval process outside of this grid so that we can track the process and the status adequately so that people don't actually do that manually. It goes through an actual approval process that sits on top of a business process. So we just basically we digitize this. The process was already there before we got in, and then we've modified that input form to make it better in terms of user experience, and also to remove the attachment and also to remove the status from the form. Then the last thing I want to do is that I want to monitor this. I want to be able to create a report on top of that. So for this, I will use another list that has the exact same content, exact same structure. It's just that to create a report on 2 lists, on 2 records, it might not, might not come out very well. So I'm just going to go and trigger that Power BI desktop application, and I'm going to go grab this list. And maybe this is something that you guys are much more comfortable with. Not sure your level of comfort with the rest of the Power Platform tools, but I'm assuming because you guys are a Power BI user group, that what next might something you are comfortable with. So what I'm going to do is just pull the content from that SharePoint list. And I will go grab my SharePoint list and connect to it. I will put the URL to the site where I wanted to do this. I will use that beta. It's a demo. Oh, let me see that. Well. Oh, this is new, and that's cool, actually. I'm just going to leave it like that for now. But it means that I could pull content from a view. So SharePoint pre-filters the content using a control that is a view. So I could connect to that view instead. And I think we should have something that is a demo DC approval request. this is the list. This is not the one that I want though. Let me pull this one. Basically, the same, just a different context. And I will launch Power Query right away because I know I want to transform. Let me choose the columns we want to work with. I will use project name, client name, country, state or province, street, zip, postal code, contact name, contact email address, project type, amount, start date, contract type, justification status, and that'll be it. Come on. Oh, I'm sorry. I was waiting for this to actually do something. And this will be text, 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 text. This is all good. I'm just gonna make this a date only. Not sure why I don't want the date and time here. Project amount is fine. Everything else is fine. This is fine. So I'm just gonna close and apply on top of this. I will go get my project amount. I'll put this into a data card. I'll make this a lot smaller. Also, I'll make this a custom color. And I will get rid of that. Category. I will filter this based on the type of project. And this will be AI and machine learning. This will be business intelligence. This will be Power Platform. And this will be SharePoint. So technically I would insert some titles here. Make this a little bigger and say AI and ML. Let me make this bigger actually. Oh, I know it's not what I want. Come on. Are you kidding me? Oh, you know what? We're not going to do titles tonight. There you go. And that's it for me. Like after 3 times, it doesn't copy and paste. That's it. Actually, let me redo that. Let me be a little more patient. There you go. And then we add SharePoint at the end for sure. Then we add BI. And we also add Power Platform. So this should go on top of that. This should go on top of that. Yes. So all of these should align at the top. There you go. All of these should stay right there. And then I'm just going to do project per client name, amount per client name. So project amount per client name. And then also same thing, but status driven. Come on. And then I need also money by time. And maybe add a slicer on the country. And maybe another slicer on contract type. Super duper. So I should be able to save this. Pricing approval request 2. And I should be able to publish that on a SharePoint. Once I publish that, not in a SharePoint, in the Power BI, once I publish that into a Power BI workspace, it should look something like this. So I have something called pricing approval requests. If I click this, obviously this is a standard Power BI, but if we crank this up a notch, we can actually implement this in a new page. So let me trigger that new page creation, create that page. I will say this is my report mate. And I will just change the behavior of that SharePoint page. So I could implement, different layouts, but I just want to plain layout and this centered here. And I want to get rid of that text box because we don't want to put text. But what we want to implement here is that Power BI web part that will allow me to add a report if I paste the URL right here and change this don't show navigation and publish that page. And I will make that page available in my navigation. So if I go back to my own page, I could go see this is my report mate. So this is basically the data that I pulled from that SharePoint list where I'm driving the approval process using Power Automate. And I'm also enabling a better user experience using Power Apps. Yeah, that's pretty much it. This is what I, this is what I had in mind for tonight. Are there any questions or comments on what I just demoed? Nope, no questions, no comments.
There have to be some questions or comments. Nothing?
This is Tony McGovern. I have a comment. That was fantastic.
Awesome. Awesome, I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of, oh, sorry.
It's
You go ahead.
amazing to think of what you can do.
Yeah, this is it's a good example actually of a simple solution to, for the person who's asked to manage the problem daily. For that person, it's a complex. She spends half her day like looking through emails and trying to find the contract for that client that was submitted last month, and was it approved? Was it not approved? It becomes a hard job for that person to manage, and it's a simple solution for the person to enable her to do something else, but it's the level of complexity that is required to implement this is very low. So it's not a complex solution from a Power Apps perspective. It's simple. From a Power Automate perspective, it's simple. It's just when you attach all of this together, it starts to make sense in terms of solution.
I also have another question, if you don't mind.
Yes. Yes, please.
And this is for you and for everyone else, anyone else on this video. So with clients, particularly those who are not familiar with Power BI and using something, using data sources like SharePoint lists or things that don't have direct query. They love the demos I give to them. They love the stuff that me and my team have implemented, but they're always like, well, do I really have to wait because they have pro licenses? Do I really have to wait every 2 hours for refresh? Is there, I guess I'm asking for advice. How do you coach your clients or how do you get around, that limitation without telling them, about premium? What are your tactics? How do you get around that?
Yeah, okay. So first would be premium per user. So that would be another tactic that's cheaper for them. So you can still leverage the premium capacity, but much cheaper. So depending on the amount of users that need to see the report, we could consider that. Make the workspace where this is sitting, this workspace, I could make it a premium workspace. Actually, if I look a little, it might actually. So let me just go to that parameter, and I could make this a premium per user. So the workspace would leverage premium capacity, but people don't have to pay for a dedicated capacity now. So it's a two different strategies. So it's still premium, but per user base. So this adds an extra $10 per head if you want. So that would be one strategy. The other strategy is that I don't know how much I would actually recommend that for that specific solution, because one of the good things about this solution or that type of solution is that it's cheap, it's simple, it's easy to maintain. So I would try to convince the client not to do what I'm about to tell you, but if they want to do that, we could also we could consider this is whenever an item is added to the SharePoint list, you could use Power Automate to actually refresh your data set. So Power Automate does have connectors to Power BI, so you could use Power Automate to refresh this data set. You know what I mean?
I do. Thank you. Fantastic.
Yeah. Also, when you go through that Power BI thing, when you go through Power Automate, I'm not sure what the limitations are in terms of refresh. I'm quite confident it's over 8 because you go through the API, but I don't take anything I'm saying for granted. What I would validate is that you could for sure do more than 8 an hour or 8 a day, even though you're not running a pro, but I feel quite confident for that because you're not going through the same layer. So when you're going through the interface is one thing, but when you hit the API instead, you have different limitations.
Thank you.
This is Shannon. I always have an opinion, so I would love to jump in on that too. There is still the same limitation with the number of refreshes, unless you're using a streaming data set, which has its own whole set of limitations. But I actually would take us back to the clients as a challenge to them. Why do they need the data immediately? Is it really super necessary? I mean, if it's like manufacturing or, something where really direct query would be ideal, then maybe. But I feel like there are so few use cases where that's really, truly necessary. I don't know. What do other people think?
I kind of agree with you on that. So for that specific use case, for me, it was not that complicated to make them understand that, for the price that you're paying, you'll have to wait for the data. If you want, to see the data right away, fine. But, this is the cost for seeing right away.
The only thing I will add is if you want to build Power BI-like experiences, but with real-time data, a Canvas app is another way to go because Canvas apps don't have that refresh limit, and you can get something to a client that might appease them. It won't have all the functionality of Power BI, but if it's just showing them that immediacy if that's more important than what Power BI has, that's another option.
Actually, I just want to, this is a good perspective. So what I just built now, a custom form, is basically a Canvas app embedded into the SharePoint form. I could have built the exact same Canvas application using that same data source. So let me precise, add another layer on your statement, is that if you store your content outside of SharePoint, you could have a Canvas app storing content into Dataverse where direct query is enabled. You know what I mean? So, but you need to change your backend. It's not so much the interface that we use to put the content in the SharePoint list. That is the issue. Is just that when you request the content from a Power BI perspective, there are limitations because there's no direct query there. So it does require for you to implement this using import with the limitations that you have with the import. But Dataverse, which is the native backend if you want for Power Apps, would allow you to do that. That being said, you lose that. I go to my portal and all my Excel stuff is right there. So it's depends what they want to do. If that makes any sense. Cool.
Any other questions out there?